Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts. Today's episode is covering a specific plant, which you see before you, that doesn't get much press or credit in the United States. The plant I'm talking about is comfrey, the miracle herb, perennial herb. It is a semi-evergreen in our climate here in North Carolina, but up north it's probably more deciduous. Now with that said, it is the herb that you need badly to have. You have a mighty need, and I'm going to tell you why. Comfrey is the all-star of the herbs. You can eat it, though in limited quantities. It is one of the best fodder plants for animal feed. Hands down, bar none, no comparisons. This one is a little scorched, or rather its flower stalks are. It flowered profusely, as it does every year, and as you can see, it's on the uptick again for a fall reflowering. This variety is, well, let me start with the scientific name. Symphytum officinale. Officinale meaning the for real deal. And Symphytum could mean a bunch of things. The Latin breakdown was so unclear that I didn't bother to finish it up. That's okay. Comfrey is awesome. Now, this variety is just a plain Symphytum officinale. And it was grown in a container for a couple of years, and then moved out here to this garden to fix nutrients for the soil here, because there was a lot of raw, incompletely decomposed compost used to build this garden bed. Now I'm going to rotate the camera. This garden bed. And this plant gets lusher and fluffier every year. I'm very happy with this one. Now, I should point out that comfrey is in the borage family, so it's related to borage, that crazy annual herb with the star blue flowers on it that taste like cucumbers you can use in salads. Comfrey, well, hold on. Let me move on to the next specimen because I'm going to explain this. Now, there's going to be a bit of moving about today because the three specimens I have in the garden are three different types of comfrey, and each one deserves coverage. Alright, now what you have before you now is Symphytum peregrinum Bocking number 4. The Bocking series were an attempt in a village called Bocking to improve the comfrey. Its yield, its nutrient value, everything. You can see how massive these leaves are. Some of these leaves are more than a foot long. This is actually 3 crowns in a large 20-inch tree pot, and they still suck this thing dry every so often, and so I have to be aggressive about watering. You know, the crosses we bear. But I harvest the leaves and I make fertilizer out of them, and that causes all the lush growth you see around you in my videos. It's because of comfrey. Now, these were a trade with a member of Sustainable Neighbors, and you know who you are if you see this video. And yes, bragging rights, look at the size of my comfrey. But that's it. Bocking 4, which by the way comes through Co's Comfrey, it's an online order site and you can get different year-aged crowns, is high in protein, 22 to 33%, has vitamins A, C, and B12, it's drought tolerant, rich in minerals and micronutrients. As I said before, it's the ultimate animal fodder plant. Like, get out of the way, soybean. No, that stuff you're feeding your pigs, your hogs, your cows, everything. Throw that crap out. Get this. It can yield 140 tons of green mass per acre, which is more than a lot of fodder plants can. It also can be used to make ethanol, better than corn. So, corn lobby, go fly a kite, please. And here's the interesting thing. It is the only known land plant that is able to pull B12 from the soil and store it in its foliage, which is why chopping it up and using it as the basis for a fertilizer for all those other nutrients it stores, including intense amounts of nitrogen, make it the plant substitute for fish fertilizer and chemical fertilizers in general. I mean, these crowns, when I got them, were about 2 or 3 inches long, They were thinner than a pencil, and they've turned into this. And you see that cluster coming up in the middle? That's a flower cluster. I have no idea what color these suckers are going to be. I'm just glad to have it. Now we're going to move on to the third specimen. And yes, don't mind this, I'm just carrying the tripod. Lastly, we have this. This is Bocking 14, and they're particularly rare apparently in the trade. A lot of growers are no longer selling this. A lot of the Bocking strains have gone extinct or are lost. I got this through a company called Richter's in Canada, and it was in a different site, and I resited it and then spiked the hell out of the soil, and it's recovered from falling apart. Also, that it gets more maintenance because it's in the hose path and gets watered more regularly has helped a lot. This one is just as useful as the ones you just saw. However, Bocking 14 was the gold standard for a long time. Unfortunately, it doesn't produce viable seeds, so what I've got is what I'm going to have. And hopefully I can grow the crowns and subdivide them later. Now, why you should grow Comfrey. Comfrey is fairly easy, again in the borage family. Doesn't ask for much, though the best you can give it will get the best results. It's nutritious. It actually accelerates decomposition in compost, so if you make a slurry out of the leaves and pour it in there, it'll hasten decomposition and get you ready compost faster. You can plant it on a pile of moderately decomposed debris or raw compost, and it'll turn it into dirt in no time flat. It's a really good neighbor. As you can see, it's not competing with anything, and if anything, it may be unlocking nutrients for its neighbors, sort of like a legume fixes nitrogen. So this is why you should have it. There's also the fact that it has beautiful pink, if not sort of mauve-colored flowers in the spring and sometimes in the fall. When it blooms, it attracts pollinators. And that is pretty much the world of Comfrey. I do recommend you have it, and if you have any comments about this mysterious herb, which by the way you can eat, but again there may be compounds that are bad for you, so limited quantities, consult a reputable source before you start, eating your crop of this. I do recommend that you grow it very much, especially so you can make your own fertilizer, and I think that covers it all. So, with all that said, keep them growing, folks.